Bob Collymore, CEO of Safaricom. I feel as if it's a Groundhog Day. My God, brilliant results. Really fantastic. I think, I was sitting there yesterday thinking, where were the expectations? And I think wherever they were, you're way above them. Can I first go through a few of the headline numbers? Sure. Obviously, if you don't mind, let's start off with voice, because that remains still a majority portion of your revenue stream. Yes. You posted growth. People have been talking about it slowing down from years ago. How would you characterize the voice business this year?
Well, it is slowing down.
Yes.
Growth of 4% is lower than it was last year. We anticipated it.
Yes.
I think the second half was even slower than the first half.
Yes.
But we still think it's got quite a lot of life left in it. So single-digit growth as we go forward is not beyond the realms of possibility.
And if you look at the configuration of the results now, the non-voice component has really increased in terms of revenue share. You had some real standout numbers in there. What's your view on that non-voice revenue?
Really pleased with it. Really pleased with the performance of data.
Yes.
I think that
was up more than 50%.
Yes, yeah, 59%.
Yeah.
I think we can still do a bit more.
Yes.
But now we've got the network in place. Now that we have got an average throughput speed on data of 4.3 Mbps average across the network. Now that we've got 4G, we've got about 236 4G sites deployed in Nairobi, and now we're moving into Nairobi and Mombasa, and now we're moving into Kisumu and the other counties. We think that there's a lot of growth left still on data. Yeah. And of course, good old M-Pesa, still growing at 23%.
That's pretty extraordinary.
More customers being acquired. But I think the high level customer numbers is not to be ignored either, because we still saw customer growth of about 8%.
Yes.
And that's after we had disconnected quite a lot of customers.
You're talking about it, yes.
So, quite pleased with that, and we expect to continue to see customer growth.
Bob, the stock market absolutely loves Safaricom. I think it's up about 25% already this year. It's done all the heavy lifting for the Nairobi Stock Exchange, outperformed the all-share by a factor of 4 this year. We're probably going to see another spike higher today. Hiked the dividend by, I think, over 30%. I mean, this is really, really strong numbers. I mean, how, the market has been right in the way it's lifted your share price over 3 years. It's been a massive bull market.
Yes, dividend, we're pleased with the dividend lift, which is 36%.
Yes.
We would just caution to expect that kind of hike every year. We did say we have a progressive dividend policy, so the dividend will always be higher. In fact, I was watching one of our old video recordings earlier this week, and we did say that the policy is that the dividend will always be larger, at least the same or larger in the coming year. But I just want to temper people. Don't expect a 36% hike every year. That's.
And you've got more expenditure next year, haven't you? You've got this security contract that you've done with the government, which is timely. That's one of the big risks for our economy, really. But you'll have to put some money to work there, won't you?
Yeah, so we've already put some money to work, and some of that came out of last year.
Yes.
Because the contract was signed and we started to implement. And in fact, in a couple of weeks from now, we expect to take the head of state to see the first phase, which we promised for the 25th of March. And I was looking at it yesterday, and we're in pretty good shape. So some of that money came out of last year. Some of it comes out of this year. And if we hadn't done that, you'd have seen a more positive result on the free cash this year. So next year we're expecting to spend another 33 billion, which is a lot. It's certainly 10 times as much, more than 10 times as much as our nearest competitor would spend on network build. But we think it's important. Yeah.
No, I mean, it's clearly important, isn't it? And I think it's a great service that you're providing to the country at a moment that the country needs it.
Yes. I think the government would like to do more, quicker. The problem is money, right? And we're kind of funding this thing up front. So the 14.9 billion we pay out, and then we recover that from government over a 5-year period. And you know, a company of our size really don't have a choice, because if you can help to make the country more secure, it creates a healthy marketplace for you. You know, and we can't sit back and let someone else fix that problem.
Well, congratulations on the extension of the contract that we heard about today.
Yeah, that was a relief.
Huh? and let's look forward. Okay, so we've got this mature business voice, which we're going to maximise for as long as we can. But we've got all this new growth coming. If I can just jump from M-Pesa to the banking sector, you were mentioning M-Shwari, more than 10 million customers. Your partnership with KCB, where customers have popped over 1.4 million, I think.
In a very short period of time.
A very short period of time.
We launched that thing in January, I think.
You've got all these efforts where you've embedded yourself in the payment ecosystem beyond M-Pesa with retailers. You've got inward remittances coming from Kenyans abroad. Where's this all going? You know, what's your vision of it in 2 years' time? What do you see it? How will it look?
You see, I think one of the big differences between Safaricom and many other mobile operators is they see themselves as being a bigger and bigger mobile operator.
Yes.
And I think as we envision ourselves over the next kind of 5 years, it is going to be very multifaceted. You know, tomorrow we are launching the big box.
Yeah. Are you excited about that? Is this a big?
Yeah, pretty excited. You know, it's the first step in what we think will be a very exciting journey. It will give you obviously decoding functionality.
Yes.
In addition to that, it will give you up to 4G speeds.
Yeah.
A router in the home.
Yes.
So it's one way of getting into the home without putting fiber. We also announced this morning that, you know, we are also going to put some fiber to the home, not massive, but we want to get into the home. We want to get into that entertainment space.
Yes.
We want to get into delivering, you know, delivering the kind of content that you want, not that the broadcasters want to give to you, the content that you want when you want it.
Yes.
And it needs to be local and it needs to be international. So there definitely we will work in partnerships with a few people.
Yes.
And the banks, we've already started to work with the banks. We've been working very well with the fast-moving consumer goods companies like Unilever. You know, mobile money is really getting much further, much deeper into their organizations. So their distributors are being paid by M-Pesa, their staff is being paid by M-Pesa. And we've got some really exciting stuff happening there. So, you know, when we envision, it's an interesting word, when we envision Safaricom, we don't envision Safaricom as being a voice and data play only. We will do lots more stuff.
Now, if I can just go back to some of, you know, the granularity of the earnings. Obviously, mobile data was the standout. People were saying SMS was dead long time ago. Your revenue growth was 15% there. What about all this other competition that's been coming from, you know, WhatsApp and the likes of those guys? What's the secret to getting double-digit growth on SMS?
Well, you know, things like WhatsApp, which is a fantastic service, and you know, I use it all the time, really does rely on smartphone penetration. Yeah. And, you know, our smartphone penetration is still not great. I'm just checking the numbers here. But I think we still have, you know...
I think you said you had 4.3 million smartphone devices.
Yeah. So, you know, that's not sufficient to have WhatsApp erode SMS, SMS revenues just yet. Yeah. It will, of course, it will at some point. But also, if you make sure you price your SMS bundles in a way that's attractive to users, then you don't have to use WhatsApp. Yeah. You know, you pay 5 or 10 shillings and you get a sizable bundle of SMS. But it will come. You know, it will come.
Going back to smartphones, you know, I remember an interview we did a while back, and you said it gets below $100. That's the tipping point. It's now well below that number, isn't it?
Actually, worse than that. I was watching a video of an interview which you'd done with Michael.
Yeah, that's right. And he said $200.
$200.
Do you remember that?
$200. Yes. Yeah. So now they're coming in at less than $50.
Yes.
And we're working well with the device manufacturers and Vodafone also, because Vodafone are doing some work in this space to keep driving that price down. We don't make any money out of handsets, and we also try not to subsidize too much. But as we drive the entry-level price down, we'll see more people coming into that market. In fact, we don't sell any, in the Safaricom shop, we don't sell any phones which are not smartphones today.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And I saw that the usage component, people are using much more data now on their devices than they were 12 months ago.
Yes.
What's triggering that?
Just utility.
Yes.
Just utility, you know, whether you want to get location information, you want to get weather information, you know, the simplest questions now, people just pop onto Google.
Yeah.
So it's easier. It's a click on an icon now to get those answers and those solutions. And you know, if I were to give you a comparison of what you would have needed 10 years ago to what you have in your pocket today, you know, you'd have had maps, you'd have had wallets, you'd have had cameras, you'd have had all those things. So smartphones really is becoming you know, just an everyday tool for delivering solutions for you, and that's what's driving that revenue, that data revenue up.
A couple of weeks back, you brought M-Pesa back from Germany. It was I could feel the stresses. You know, it was a fantastic achievement. What's that going to do? I mean, besides making us proud that we've got it back on in our own country, what's it going to do? Is it going to?
Well, the thing that customers noticed immediately. Yeah. So we switched it on at 11:48, which is about 7 minutes earlier than we said we would. Immediately, I was noticing on Twitter, people were saying how fast it was.
Yes.
And it was 3 times faster than its predecessor. The second thing is it's much more secure, because now we have double redundancy. So you have one data center, and then you've got another one, and then you've got another one. And you can fail over those 3 very, very quickly. The level of security which is built around it is much greater than we had before. But for customers, and I mean, all those things are very important for customers, but the thing which is also very important for them is the functionality that they'll start to get. So we'll start to see in August of this year the new roadmap starting to roll out. And one of the big pain points for customers, for all of us actually, when you send money, did you send it to the right person? And that fix, people have been saying to me, it must be an easy fix. Really, it's been a very complex fix. On this new platform, it's going to be much easier to do things like that. For local developers, it's going to be easier to give them the API, because we couldn't give it to them on the old platform. And that's something which I think is going to make a lot of difference to local developers, local partners, local banks, for example. So, you know, we'll start to see that, but we're still betting it in.
Yes.
You know?
And Michael was in the audience. You gave him a very strong compliment, said it wouldn't have been possible without him. And I saw also last week you've now connected with MTN. You're going to allow more intra-African payments across networks. Is that right?
Interoperability between us and MTN. And you know, people have been bleating on about interoperability for a long time. MTN, we've now signed the MOU, and you're now able to send money from one mobile network to the other. And that MOU takes us across the MTN footprint and the Vodafone footprint, Vodacom footprint, and the Safaricom footprint. We have a very small footprint, but nonetheless.
Bob, you know, if we go back to the numbers, I mean, these were really, really strong. I think revenue numbers were over 11%. It's
13%, both on total revenues and voice revenues.
Yes. I mean, obviously we're looking for further acceleration in mobile data. You've got this, the big box, but you're saying to me, you told me that's like 12 to 18 months before you think it impacts the P&L.
Yeah, so you'll start to see, you know, we'll launch the big box. Yeah. We're going to be spending the next few months in deep negotiations for more content for that box. We are going to be looking at how we start to get more fiber into homes to deliver some of these solutions. But beyond the big box, you know, money is still a big deal. And payment is still a very big deal. The 23% growth you've seen in M-Pesa is, you know, is a big number.
It's a big, because it's no longer a small business. It's a big business.
It is a big
growing
business. Yeah, absolutely.
But, you know, John said that it's margin dilutive. What did he mean by that?
Yeah, so the EBITDA, the EBITDA margin on M-Pesa. So, you know, looking back on the old numbers, for every 100 shillings of revenue that comes into us, you know, 40 shillings goes to the the agent and the
yes.
distributor. 10 shillings went to 11 shillings went to Vodafone. So at an EBITDA level, it was margin dilutive.
Okay. And has it got this kind of growth ahead of it still?
Yes, I think so. I think so. Because 95% of payments is still cash.
Yes.
Right.
In the whole country.
In the whole country.
Yeah.
And so we're tackling cash.
Yes.
And if you speak to our friend Joshua,
yes.
He'll articulate this much better than we can. Tackling that cash is a big opportunity for us.
And Bob,
even if you can hit 15, 20% of that, it's a big number. And you heard one of the guys ask today about competition, and we said, we don't understand.
How you yes, tell me about.
It's slightly irritable because the competition there's a place for competition.
Yes.
And you see competition hitting us from all over the place.
Yeah.
One of the questions people say is, Safaricom, aren't you too big? Aren't you too dominant?
Yes.
And my answer to that is, well, how big do you need to be to compete with Facebook?
Yes.
Or with Google?
Absolutely.
Because the competition actually doesn't just come to you from mobile network operators anymore. Yeah. It's coming in all sizes and shapes.
It's a global
And we
world.
have to make sure that we are in a position to deal with that.
Yeah.
But actually, we don't look at the competition. We just look at what can we deliver for the customer. What can we do to make their lives better? And if we can make their lives better, then they can add value to our customers.
I find it quite counterintuitive that, you want successful companies to do better, and the fact of your success, that's something to be cheered.
Yeah, yeah.
There was some attrition in the workforce in the last 6 months.
Yes.
I think you let some people go.
Yeah.
How would you characterize that? I know you have a zero tolerance towards any corruption or anything. I don't know what the cases were, but would you care to respond to that? Because there was quite a lot of conversation and announcements from you about it.
Yeah, look, we're going to be publishing our sustainability report in a month or two, and you'll see, some more granularity around those numbers over the whole year. I don't really want to talk specifically about them because they're HR issues and they are sensitive. But more generally, I'd say that in line with what the President of the Republic is doing, he's taking a zero tolerance approach because we have to rid, as a country, as a continent, we have to rid businesses in the public sector of corruption. Yeah. I sit on the United Nations Global Compact Board, and I head the working group on corruption, ethics and corruption in business. Yeah, last week I was in Los Angeles at the Milken Institute. Yes. And the question that people are continually asking... I listened to that. That was a very good interview, by the way. Thank you.
They took a long while to get to you in that.
Too many people on the panel. But the question that investors are asking constantly is, if I were to bring my money onto the continent, how safe is it? Yes. What about security, insecurity in the countries? Yeah. And what about corruption? They're the two biggest problems. And of course, the youth bulge is the other one. And so I think as a country, we really have got to take a position on this thing now. We can't allow it to continue to drift.
On the youth bulge, which you talk about, I noticed your Youth Delight Index, your youth scores were very, very high. And that totally coincides with our demographic. And that's actually been the case, Bob, since I've been coming to these. Safaricom has consistently scored very high. And if you look at your brand equity, that also is an outlier within Kenya and actually within Africa. What has been the secret to that success? Why do people identify with your brand so strongly and so consistently over a long... Notwithstanding, there have been service issues and sometimes those things flare up, but it seems to still consistently be a brand everyone identifies with, including myself.
I think the trust comes from relevance.
Yes.
If we are relevant to you, then you'll pay attention to us. Yeah. And then if we can be transparent and honest, and of course we mess up. We've messed up at least a couple of times in the past couple of months. The post-pay story that we had. If a customer pays and had bought their bundle, why would you take it away from them? Yes. Actually, it was an oversight. And when we realized it, I was flying back from Amsterdam. Yes. When we realized it, Sylvia and I talked about it, and we said, of course it's an oversight, and of course we must fix it. And so we fixed it. And we said we made a mistake. Yeah. Similarly, the way we communicated on the bundles, on the data bundles a little while back, But because we're very open and very transparent about this, and sometimes people beat us up, and we say, okay,
Yes.
you know, we deserve it. I think that engenders trust from customers. And I think, you know, if you look at some of the metrics, you'll see that we are one of the most trusted brands, and we don't take that for granted. And that's why we're always going to be honest, and sometimes you might not like what we have to say, but we're going to be honest and we're going to be transparent about it.
Bob, I can see that Kui is telling me to wind up, so I'll just say, you know, in closing, these were amazing results. You know, you've presided over the most extraordinary period of value creation for shareholders. I think, you know, you were mentioning before foreign investors. This has probably been one of the best returns had they invested at the beginning of the year, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, at any time since you've come in. So I really fully congratulate you, because it really is a statement. And to be able to lift your dividend by that amount anywhere in the world today is you know, you're in the top percentile. And you know, I really wish to congratulate you for what you've done. And I think it was a no-brainer for the chairman to extend your term, if we can call it like that. So really well done.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bob.